So good day, and it's our first video by EDU 701 by M. Cohen Miller, the class which emphasizes
710.
710, yeah, the class which emphasizes educational features, different systems of education and learning, and also both as international and Kazakhstani context. So today we are going to talk about Montessori method, and our guest speaker Lana Dikancheva from Montessori Zebra School of Astana. The outline of our talk and informed debate is to summarize your speech, to summarize what has been done. Then we are going to give you some references about articles used in our work and finish it with discussion about Montessori method and fascism education. So Peter, I'm giving the floor to you.
Oh, great. Thank you, Stas. So this video is made for the class, but it's not for our classroom mates, but for rather someone who was not in our class. So hopefully we'll have a chance to discuss in a manner that you will understand quite easily. So Dr. Lana Dikancheva came to our class on September 6th, and she started our discussion with this question: what is a child? So through the brainstorming, we came up with several definitions: human being, love, treasure, responsibility, etc. So she mentioned that in the 18th century, children were not always looked upon with such a positive light, but in fact they were treated as little adults. But thanks to the researchers and educators such as Locke, Rousseau, Freud, Erikson, Piaget, and Montessori, we came to know children as a little bit more complex and tender beings. So Montessori was an observer, first and foremost. She did not come up with a theory and try to fit the narrative to the children, but rather she was an observer who emphasized on the children's education as a whole. So the environment of Montessori school, as far as we know, is geared toward activities for the students. The desk sizes, the stations, they're all there for the students' active learning process. One of the things that she emphasized that was really important was that students have natural urges, natural stages. For example, when the students want to walk, students have a nature that governs the impulses to stand, to crave, or to walk. And then the Montessori method would allow the students to move around, to choose, and to have an active way of concentrating on their duties. So there are 3 no's in the Montessori program, which would be if the students are in dangerous situations, that would be considered the wrong thing to do. They must finish things in time, and they must be respectful to one another. But the disciplinary component is not the same as in punishment, but rather it's an error that they can continue to correct themselves in. So they have students who are older than some other students, and they'll have a system in place to make sure that this happens. Some other things, of course, Stas, you're more than welcome to jump in. There are
the classroom is specially arranged, and students have a choice to pick activities they like, to do what they want. So, and everything is real. It's not like a pretend. So if they have a hammer, it's real hammer, children's size hammer. If they have a nail, it's real nail. And they practice concentration by doing things. So they really do, and they do what they really like. And teacher in this environment, he's more like a guide, not like instructor. So he wants children to answer questions, to do everything by themselves. And he can introduce some things if they are struggling to deal with them. What else? Montessori environment has special age grouping. So from 1 to 3, it's an age of character development. And from 3 to 6 is an age of social development. And children with an age from 6 to 9, it's a sensory development. So in general, these are the stages of development of a child. Peter?
And so Dr. Lana, I think, concluded her lecture by stating that education should emphasize on not only one thing, but on physical, humanitarian, as well as spiritual. So Montessori emphasizes on educating the whole child. In terms of our references that we used for this week, the literature, there was Ken Robinson's Creative Schools, The Grassroots to Revolution That's Transforming Education.
It's Tarquini, Fascist Education Policy from 1922 to 1943.
Alfie Cohen's Unconditional Parenting.
It's Montessori with her Montessori method.
And the Impact of Pretend Play on Children's Development, a review of evidence by researchers at University of Virginia. Now, the third segment, which would be our reflection, Stas and I will do a bit of a debate in terms of our positioning, arguing from the point of view of Montessori and arguing from the point of view of Mussolini or the fascist education. So we have 4 questions, or rather 5, that we're going to impose on each other, and Stas and I will go back and forth and discuss about their perspective on what the definition of, for example, the first question, what is a child?
So from my perspective, from perspective of Montessori school, child is a human being who is born free. And he's born free to choose and decide what to go, what he likes to do. So the focus is on individual development. And his development not for the sake of a state, not for the sake of a teacher. He's doing it for himself, to be happy.
From the perspective of the fascist education, children, they belong to the state. In fact, we allow them to be educated, so they belong to the betterment of the state. We're not so interested in their development for their own persons, but their existence, the very existence, is for the state.
Interesting point.
So, because of this, the next question is students' activities. What sort of activities are students involved in the classroom?
So, in Montessori school, there is a special environment, as I have been mentioned. And this environment is made for children to let them find what they really like. So there are several sections and places where they can go and do things like with numeracy, with reading, and all of this stuff. So learning goes naturally. They choose what they want to do, and there is only one sort of activities which they can do simultaneously. So if he plays with red cube, there is only one red cube. So that's how we practice our children to develop individually, to self-discipline. What else? Montessori environment lets children to progress. So things that they are doing, they are growing. There is one type of activity, and then it goes to another, like other type of activity. So by doing this, they develop, they grow, they understand that this concept is really connected to another concept. Peter, what can you say?
We do believe in the freedom of children too. They are free to serve the state. So, in terms of in classroom activities, they are free to salute the flag. They are free to participate in the choir that would compose and select the most patriotic hymn. They are free to decorate the streets to honor the World War I veterans, as well as other heroes who died during the wars of the past. So we do believe in the freedom of children, but as individuals, it's not so important that that individually that they would come up with this sense of patriotism to the state, because after all, fascism is a dictatorship, and where the government has control over both economic and political systems, and opposition is not allowed for their own benefit.
Oh my God. Peter, can I jump in?
Sure.
So, what is a culture?
Culture is tied to political as well as spiritual activities. Now, we would mention this a little bit more, but about the stages of growth. But in Montessori's method, how would you describe the growth or the stages of growth of the students?
So, in Montessori method, we don't have a reward and punishment system. So, There are three basic stages of the development, as I have been mentioned, from 0 to 3, character development, then we go to social development, and finally we finish in the age of 9 with sensitivity development. And it works like this. Children does things by himself. He likes what he's doing. And if he is progressing, if he does them good, he doesn't need anyone, or she doesn't need anyone to be referenced on. So he's good by himself, and he enjoys the process of doing things. He enjoys the results.
Wait. So you don't need the Duce, you don't need you don't need Mussolini?
No, there is no Mussolini in our system.
All right. We have stages of growth too in fascism education, but it's more for the growth of fascism that's emphasized more than the growth of the students. As we progress, we will have more organizations that are geared toward our youth. So we will award them, we will recognize them according to the growth of the stages, and in fact, later on, we will recognize these graduates with muskets so that they will eventually obey, and then they will believe and fight for the state. So, the last question will be the practical application. What is the learning outcome that is expected from Montessori?
So we don't point on a state. Learning outcomes of our schooling system, of our learning system, it's our philosophy. Come on. So our children are free. They are free individuals who are developed, who know what they like to do, and they in future they proceed with the activities they like to do in the past in our environment. So they're self-disciplined. They know how to exercise concentration. They're usually really productive. And in the future, when they proceed to another levels of education, they can do the things without fear of punishment or word, so they do them perfectly. That's our point, I think.
And I think what you're saying is lifelong learning.
Lifelong learning, yeah, right. So everything is done, and our children learn how to learn. So in the future, they will have no problems with acquiring different competencies, with acquiring new skills. Really progressive method, yeah. Peter.
Well, the state is always under constant threat from the external factors. So we need patriots who will fight for the state. Get your foot off the table. You're going to shake the camera. We want lifelong patriots, and who will actually give themselves for the benefit of the state, just like the martyrs that they will be commemorating in the parks and in the streets. So that's the wrap up. We've had a really wonderful time learning about the differences of Montessori and Mussolini, but it was interesting to note that they lived in the same era, and both Montessori method and fascism education they were incubated during the same time. So I thought this was very interesting. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah. So thank you for watching this short video. If you like it, click button below. Yeah. Peter?
And that's it. Thank you very much.